Okay, everybody, as I had promised in class last week for my Monday classes that will be out, I'm going to do a screencast for each of you, and I'll post them over here in the announcements. The two courses that I have on Mondays are uh, management science and then MIS. So the screencast will be pretty short, 30 to 40 minutes at the very, very most. And it's really just to kind of keep everybody in line and all of that. I won't be adding any additional assignments or anything of that sort. I haven't prepared to, but I have some resources there that I probably would discuss, that I intend to discuss, and then I'll post these so you'll have them to see. Okay, and just for a quick review, we're now, today, of course, is pop that up. Today is September 1st. So we are coming out of week number 1, and I haven't graded the case studies yet, nor have I entered the grades for your Loudon Chapter 1 exams. I want to take a moment, though, and I want to speak about something that's very important. When a publisher allows us to utilize their exams, and the best exams that we can use are those that are provided by a publisher, simply because every single item in a test bank has been scrutinized and looked at by probably usually 2 to 3 dozen faculty all over the country who teach in that field. I participate in looking at the exam, some of the exam questions for the text we use in this course. So I can tell you that the exams are about as fair as they can get. Plus, they're mapped into specific types of skills and knowledge that you're supposed to have when you leave here. This is according to our accreditors. The acronym is ACBSP. That being said, when I get an email from someone who says, gee, I accidentally opened quote, exam so-and-so, I can go and see what happened. Now, if I go and see that somebody opened it up and it says participated in my analytics box, what that means is somebody opened the exam and went through the items as if they were taking the test. So all I can tell you is on that one, you are probably looking at a 0. So I'm going to have to urge you to be cautious and to make sure that you know what you're doing when you open an exam. It's pretty, I'm not sure how you could miss this, and it tells you how many points it is. And it has multiple due dates. Now, you may wonder, what does that mean? What that means typically is I have had to provide an accommodation for 1 or more students. This is per the folks at Student Services, and that's just something that we have to do to comply with federal law. And when I get a letter from those folks and they say this person needs an accommodation, I have to provide it. So that's what it means. But, I mean, I have problems. I think it's pretty clear. I'm looking at Loudon Chapter 1. So all I can say is the publisher's concern is this, that someone will download an exam or exams with the questions and just simply have them out there and distribute them. And that becomes for you, if you do so, and potentially for the institution, an issue of copyright violation. These exam questions, all of the material in these exams, even if you bought the book, is not yours or mine to sell. It could be ours to keep for our own exclusive use. And that's important for you to understand. Now, you see, for example, I'm used Vital Source, and the textbooks that I get from Vital Source are textbooks books I have either purchased or have been given as an instructor because they want to promote their products. That, you know, they have to make a buck too. And I have to sign an acknowledgement that I am only using that for a particular course offered at a particular time. And that's just how it is. So if I have someone who says, oops, I opened up the exam and then I go over and see it says participated, what that means is whoever that person might be has opened up the exam and looked at the items. Now, I have it structured such it'd be pretty difficult for you, but if you wanted, you could sit there and you could do screencasts of those items, and that's the surest way to get me to put the most difficult, most stringent types of arrangement on these exams. In other words, I can set these up to where they are, every question is scrambled every single time, and I could go back and use high difficulty items, which I don't do. So please be very, very careful when you deal with these exams, these test exams. You should be aware, and most students are not, and a lot of faculty are not, that publishers, especially the big ones, will comb the internet looking for people who post answers. If you ever know of that kind of website or you get involved in one, run away, because those publishers will find people who pirate their stuff and post it, and they'll usually sue them. Now, I have to tell you this because over the past 4 or 5 months, especially during the summer, I was contacted by my book reps and was told, hey, you know, they didn't say us specifically, but they said in general, here's what you need to convey to your students so that they understand this is copyrighted material, and you have access to it only because we selected the textbook for the course, and only because I agreed that it would be used properly. Okay? And that's all I have to tell you that. So, and that's something that I had not had a chance to do yet, but I had the chance here in this short little broadcast to do so. So you'll need to make sure you understand that. Now, I'm going to have to do this in every one of my courses where I'm using large publishers' text questions and items. The upside is this: if I make you a teacher-prepared exam, it's questionable really how valid or good it is, and I have to work on those. But if I get one of these, it's one that's been what we call validated. It's almost as good. It's almost as very valid and reliable as you would get from a major testing service like the SATs or the ACTs. Okay? Now, I want to give you the very best in content. And so this course, for example, and I'll go look at here at VitalSource for just a minute. In this course, we're using the MIS by Loudon and Loudon. This textbook is the gold standard. It's the very best. And all of the exercises and all of the questions, the quizzes, are designed or are mapped around specific skills and knowledge that that accrediting bodies like ours, the ACBSP, say you have to do. And so who cares about them? Well, who cares about them is if the people out in industry come to ACBSP. They'll hold conferences or video, it's usually now webinars, and say, here's what we're trying to accomplish. Here's what we're trying to get to do. And so the people in the market that is the real world, are driving what we offer you in terms of content and test questions and case studies, etc., in using this text. It's the same with any of these. I always try to find the very, very best text I can get. Okay. So I wanted to share that with you so that you understood. And this has been a major change. But I would encourage you, if you go out and you do a search for the answers to this textbook, you may find them. But trust me, if a publisher finds them, then they'll start to search for anybody who's used them. Okay, so stay away from that kind of stuff. And the publishers used to they weren't too aggressive unless somebody was really blatant, but now they are really, really, really hard-nosed about it. So I wanted to take the time to say, and I'm not saying anybody among us has done anything wrong, don't take it like that, but I'm offering you a friendly warning. Now, there may be some instructors that you take that don't tell you this, but you can take it from me. I do some reviewing of items. I understand how this process works, and I'm going to tell you now that people who go out and use these, if you go out and you can find, say, for the Loudon text, this one, all the questions, and with a key, somebody has gotten a hold of that, hacked it, and now whoever that person is, if they can find them, they go after them. Again, the textbooks, particularly the major publishers, consider that copyrighted material, and it's only to be used. And when you purchase your text, and if you go over and you take a look at a text online, okay, or you go to the companion site, or I do on your behalf, you and I have to live by their rules. It's their product. And so I have to, when I use Vital Source, for example, this textbook, this Excel textbook, it's the same story for these. And it's simply because these publishers spend a lot of money and time putting together questions, tests that are valid, that are reliable, and it costs them a lot of money. And it takes a lot of the time of a lot of people or faculty all over the country who you might have 5 people who work on just simply one set of cases. So I wanted to share that with you and let you know. Now, I haven't started grading everybody because I had promised all of you that I promised all of you that I was going to, that I was going to do a short broadcast, and I am. And I wanted to cover this with you, all right? I'm not saying anybody did this in our class, but the publishers have asked us to speak to all of our classes and tell them about this development, all right? Now, and in many ways, it's really no different than the controversy that goes around about pirated music, okay? Probably for your generation, probably the big person you hear all the time is Taylor Swift. You remember when she refused to let her music be on Apple until Apple said, yes, we will pay you the copyright fees that you're supposed to receive as the owner of your music, okay? If someone goes out and they develop a music, an album, a single, they have the right to get paid for having created that. That's copyright law. And when you don't adhere to it, what you ultimately do is there are a lot of people I know, I hear of, and I read about people who they will go to one of these sharing sites and they'll download 5,000 or how many ever tunes into their iPhone. uh, uh, and or their Mac or their Android. And what those folks are at really in the end, what they're doing is they're increasing the price of music for all of us who purchase it through a legitimate means. So in the end, they're not helping anybody. And imagine if you went to work, you worked all week, and you didn't get paid for it. You wouldn't be happy. So if you take the perspective of authors or the perspective of musicians or entertainers or folks of that ilk, you wouldn't be very happy if you produce something you didn't get paid, right? And this is a germane topic here for MIS because it deals with one of the ethical issues that we have. Now, take YouTube for a moment. You go out to YouTube, and I love what I can find stuff on YouTube I could never find anywhere else. But trust me, YouTube pays fees to every time you open up a video and you watch it. If it's music that's been copyrighted, especially from a music publishing company, the publishing company and the artist get paid, which is fair. It's fine. They did the work. So I wanted to share that with you, and I'm going to have to do the same with 3603 and all of my other two classes as well, so everybody understands what the deal is. Okay, now just as a quick overview, we had 2 days this week, the 27th and the 29th. We had to do some finagling with the schedule and all that business, but we were really starting over here in chapter 1 and looking at some of these issues. And you say, well, what would you really, in terms of preparing for the exam, what would you recommend? I recommend that you read the textbook, that you take notes. If you have the ebook, that's why I've encouraged all of you to get a digital copy. Then you can use that digital copy, the search function, to find the questions. Now, I've had students complain in evaluations, these items are all random. Hello, yes, they are. When I design an exam for a chapter, I pull random items from the test bank. So it's not where you can start with number 1 and just go right through the textbook. That doesn't really challenge you to read the book. And it's nonsense to believe that you can go through the course and not read the book. You might, but you're going to miss the whole point of the course. So this week we looked at chapter 1. And I've had students in the past say, well, why don't you just give us a list of the readings? And I try to do that, okay? But typically I think it would be pretty intuitive if you see case follow-ups and a management decision problem and then an exam over chapter 1. My hunch is we're dealing with chapter 1, okay? So that's how I have these modules organized. And here in this very first case, and I haven't graded them yet, but I will. Is the question: are farms becoming digital firms? And the big question, and the authors provide that case study where they talk about some agricultural companies and individual farmers who use things like drones and sensors, all of the tools. They day trade in materials markets. They might have a camera overlooking of a field for security purposes. The book, the case study covers a lot of those things. And in a certain truth, yes, they're becoming digital firms. Every time you and I eat a hamburger bun, the, the material, the wheat and the flour that came to create that came from a farm somewhere. And there has to be a person or persons who know when to plant the stuff, know how to monitor it, control the amount of water they get, etc. And so there's information packed into that. If you go to a five-star restaurant and you eat a meal from one of the top chefs in the world, there's brain power that's been invested in how to make that food, how to present the food, who to buy it from. So there's, I think, some real meat for you and food, some meat for you, I'm using a pun, to dig into as regards that question. Okay. Now, I also gave you a management decision problem, and that was for you to work on. And those are a little bit different. Okay. I've had some questions about, well, what are you after? I'm going to click on this right here on the case follow-up. And you'll notice I give you some pretty extensive I think pretty specific guidelines for what you need to do. And so that's there. And the cases are a little bit different critter. The management discussion, the management decision problems, I'll click on this. And here you see. You'll note that in the MDPs, the management decision problems, typically I let you choose one or two, maybe three cases. You only need to do one. And so when you have those, I'd kind of like you to tell me, I do want you to tell me, why you chose that particular management decision problem. Okay? So I'm not sure how I could make that any clearer, and I've gotten some emails. I've gotten some emails, too, that they kind of trouble me because it's apparent that some of us are not beaming in or are not watching screencasts and are not coming over here except on a very cursory basis. Let me remind you that that Canvas tracks everything you do. I know if you've been participating or not. And I know if you've seen a screencast, if you've watched one. Now, these screencasts, as we all know, are available for you 24/7, 365. So you don't have to physically be in the seat when I deliver it, like this one. But my expectation is you will go see those. And if I see that you don't, I do hold out the option to lower your grade based on how many of those you missed. I've done everything I can do in this course to make it as accessible to you as possible, to use the very best materials that I can, and to give you an opportunity to really dig into the material and learn it. And I understand it's a little different than what you've been used to with the course you take. We already do a lot of computational work and this and that. That's because this is like a business, this is like a policy course for information systems and information technology. And so I try to choose those cases I think might be relevant to you, those that might be of use to you. And the same thing with the management decision problems. Okay? So all of that being said, I also want to, now let's take a look at the week of the 3rd, okay, and the 5th. And now we're already into this week. And on the 3rd is Labor Day, okay? So we're not having any class. So I'm doing this short little screencast for you just to have, the schedule gives me an opportunity to talk about some things that I want to. Now the case follow-up, all right, you have a a case follow-up due, it's on the 5th or the 6th. Let me pop this open for just a second. And this is due September 7th. And my math and my calendar says December 7th is a Friday, and it's due at 5 p.m. Okay. Now I'm going to go back over here for a moment, and this is a case. This is a very relevant case, Facebook and privacy, and so I chose it specifically because it's on everybody's mind. These social platforms, Twitter, especially Twitter and Facebook, to a certain extent Instagram, but Facebook and Twitter are under intense pressure from their investors. They're under intense pressure from regulators and under intense pressures from their users to accommodate these issues, like bad people that use these these social media tools to recruit people to become terrorists or to teach people how to build a bomb or stuff like that. YouTube's under the same kind of scrutiny. And so I know you heard a massive sermon at the chapel Wednesday, and what you almost were left thinking that social media are the tool of the devil. Social media they're things. They're just tools. Like a hammer. You can use a hammer to build something. You can use a hammer to bash somebody's skull in, for that matter. It's a tool. The issue is the people who are using the technology. And I want to have the opportunity in this class, at least, to speak about that issue, because you heard a lot of verbiage about, how you ought to treat people and all that. And that's absolutely correct. As a Christian, your response to these media should be loving, caring attitude. At the same time, these Facebook and Twitter have been two forces for good in the world. The Arab Spring, where a lot of people who in the Arab world, those nations where people wanted their freedom, they rose up and they used those. People in places like China use social media to let the world know what's going on. Facebook is a place where you can reconnect with people, and I've had the chance to reconnect and visit with people who at high school events. It's been a long time ago. And LinkedIn is another one of those social media. So social media are neutral. They're just like guns, and guns are a big debate in this country. I understand that. A gun can't get up and drive itself to a school and start firing. There's got to be a person that gets the gun and takes it and uses it. A gun is a tool. The thing is, we need to make our schools safer. This is just my opinion. And we probably have a lot of information technology tools like scanners, like security cameras that we could protect people. And I also believe that if it doesn't happen here, it will certainly happen in Europe. There will be a point in time when you buy a gun that you'll have to have a code to be able to open it up and use it, and that code will locate you, and if you and track you, and if you go into a particular area, like near a large place or mall, with that gun, it may not discharge. It may just shut down. Somebody's going to find something to control all of that. All right. Now, that being said, there on that week, and this is actually week number 2. Again, you've got some items coming up, and and again, if you want to really just quickly see what's going to be coming due, all right, September 1st. Okay, I had items that were going to be due by I have a couple of students I have to accommodate, but Loudon chapter due was due by the 31st, pardon me, by the 1st. So I have some students I have to accommodate. And over here, and that's something that is mandated to us by the federal government. We have no choice. You can see the dates that are due, things that are due. Now I'm going to scroll on down here and set Friday the 7th. Okay, you have these items that are due. And I'd spoken some about chapter 1, and what we'll do is I will kind of get into chapter 2 in our next screencast, which will be on Wednesday of next week. And that will be Wednesday will be a virtual day. All right. So I wanted to cover some of these housekeeping things with you. And as I promised, just to kind of, I thought the best thing I do is address some of these issues and use the screencast to do that. Now, you should be aware that I'm going to start looking at the extent to which people are viewing these screencasts. If you're physically in the chair and you see the screencast, you've attended the class. If you're somewhere remote and you look at at 1 or 2 of the screencasts during that week, you've attended class. If you don't, you're not attending, and I probably will, I will send your name over to the registrar's office to take a look. This is class. These screencasts are class sessions. I just record them for your convenience and benefit so you can watch them during that week at your own convenience. If you could come in and make the physical class, I'm happy to have you there. If you can't, you still have the ability to see these. And I'm going to tell you now, if you don't, and again, attendance means you came into the class and sat down and you logged in. Attendance means you saw the screencast and you logged in and you saw it, you viewed it. And you have to see both of them during the week they're produced for me to consider you having attended class. Okay? I want to talk about some of those policy issues, and I hope again you have a nice Labor Day. And I'm going to end this and get out of here. Okay? Take care, folks. God bless you.